Hi, welcome back to Gentle Flow. So today grabbing a couple of blocks and a couple of cushions for this class. And as with the last Gentle Flow, the only bit I won't be leading you through today are the bits on the belly, so coming down into Cobra. So I will guide you through that verbally and then I'll meet you back in your knees down plank. Otherwise, I will be again with you the whole way. So feel free to take whatever variations that feel good today. Do listen into your body. I'll be offering up a couple of new kind of transitions today, so option to take them or not, completely your choice, and no pressure. So seeing what feels good for your body today and just taking it to what it wants to do. So coming to start today in Child's Pose, if you know you like to take Child's Pose with cushions, then you can pop a cushion in between thighs and calves or underneath the head, or a block underneath the head. So getting yourself cozy, big toes together, knees together or apart, and then hands out in front or down by the sides. So finding a way into the Child's Pose that you most enjoy, that feels good for you. And allowing the forehead to come down to the ground or to a block. And then the arms can kind of rest down, whether they're reaching out in front or whether they're down by the sides. And starting by closing the eyes and maybe allowing the breath to enter into the back of the body. So one of the lovely things about Child's Pose is that it opens up the back of the body in a relaxed way. That means that the breath can access all of the side parts of the body, the back of the body. The lungs actually sit quite far back in our bodies, so it's really good to be in this kind of position if we want to have a deep breath, if we want to be able to fill up the lungs fully with oxygen as we breathe in. So using this position to maybe see if your breath can start to access some of those areas, the side ribs, the mid-back. Maybe getting a feeling of expansion as you breathe into those areas. So inhaling, expanding the side ribs, the mid-back. Exhaling to release. And maybe as you exhale through the mouth, you get a feeling of the body kind of grounding down. Maybe you can release any tension that's sitting in the body, or any kind of emotional stresses that have built up through the day or through the week, any worries. So allowing the lips to kind of softly open as you exhale, allowing the exhale to come slowly and gradually out through the body. Inhaling, filling the side body, the back body with oxygen. Getting a feeling of this cycle of this inhale, exhale, coming through your body. Inhale, inviting the new into the body, the oxygen, traveling around the blood, reaching all the muscles. Exhaling, releasing all of the stuck stuff, the old stuff, the things the body doesn't need anymore, the waste gases. So each cycle of breath renews the body. And it renews the mind. It brings energy into the body and mind. Taking a couple more cycles of breath here, really feeling into what's going on in your body, how it feels for you. And then staying in child's pose, coming up onto the fingertips, opening up the shoulders, and maybe walking the fingers forward a couple of centimeters. And then pressing through the fingers to lift the forehead from the ground, walking the fingers over to the right. Maybe your chest comes over the right thigh, and then lowering down, coming into a little side stretch. You can bring the hands flat to the floor if you want here, or you can stay up on the fingertips if you want that shoulder opening stretch. Inhaling, lifting the forehead and the chest from the thigh, walking back to center, reaching out tall, up onto the fingertips. And then over to the other side, so lifting forehead and chest, and then lowering down on the left. And again, option to stay on the fingertips here if you want to create that little bit of space in the shoulders. Inhaling, lifting the head, lifting the chest, coming back to center, up onto the fingertips once more, reaching forward. And then bringing the palms flat to the ground, pressing through the hands, rising up onto hands and knees. So wrist creases towards the front of the mat. Having the palms comfortably open wide, checking that the hands are under the shoulders, the knees are under your hips, and taking a few cat-cows as feels good for you. So maybe you begin by pressing into the hands, getting a feeling of the shoulders kind of doming, of drawing away. And then the hips rise, and following that roll through the spine so that the chest opens at the front. Exhale, coming the other way, tucking the tailbone, rolling through the spine, tucking the chin. Inhale, finding your way open and forward again. Exhaling to tuck and round. Inhaling back to center. Option to stay with cat and cows or to come into a little balance. If you'd like to try the balance, bringing the weight into the left leg, lifting the right leg from the ground, reaching away with the ball of the right foot. And you can either stay here, or if you want to, you can also lift that left hand up, thumb to the sky, arm draws alongside the ear. So you're reaching fingertips away from toes and also seeing if you can engage the belly to sort of almost getting a feeling of wrapping around the waist. So the feeling of the abdominals wrapping around the waist like a little corset holding you in. And then exhale, lowering everything down. You can take a little shake, a little rock side to side on the hips. And then on to the other side. So weight into the right leg, left leg lifts back and up, reaching away with the ball of the foot. And if it feels good, option to lift that right hand also, thumb to the sky, drawing it alongside the ear. And then getting a feeling of that kind of corset wrapping around the abdominals, reaching away for one more breath. And then exhale, back to center, and a little shake from side to side. You can also take a little circle with the hips if that's better to release the lower back. Finding your way back to center, tucking the toes under, pressing into hands and feet to lift the hips up and back into downward facing dog. Now maybe you want to start with a bend in the knees here, so that you can really get that grounding with the hands and feet, checking the hands are still pressing down evenly through the mat and through the knuckles of the fingers, and checking that the head and the neck are heavy, maybe a little nod or a little shake with the head. Pressing down and away with the hands to lift the hips up and back. And you can take a little pedal with the feet here, or you can stay with the knees bent, whatever's best for you. On your next inhale, coming to center, walking the hands forward, slowly all the way to the top of the mat. And coming to me in halfway lifts. So bringing the hands to shins or thighs, spine draws long. Exhaling, forward fold. So you can take a bend in the knees here, or you can have the legs straight, but the upper body is heavy. And then rolling up as slowly as you can, coming all the way up to stand. Inhale, arms up, overhead. And exhale, hands to prayer. Taking a fold forward on your next exhale. Inhaling, hands to shins or thighs, drawing long, halfway lift. Exhale, hands by the feet, and stepping the left foot and then the right foot back into plank. Holding here for a breath if you like, or you can lower the knees down straight away. And then everybody lowering the knees down, untucking toes, and from here bending the elbows towards the back of the mat, coming down onto your belly. Inhaling, upward dog or cobra, and then exhaling back up onto the knees, tucking the toes under, hips down, up and back, downward facing dog. On your next inhale, rising up onto the toes, and bringing the right foot forward in between the hands. So you can use your other hand to help it get there if you want. Lowering down the back knee and untucking the toes. Taking hold of your blocks. So you might like to have your blocks lengthways, pressing into them, and that means you can get a bit of length in your low lunge. And then seeing if you can sink your hips down a little bit, opening up through that left hip flexor. As you exhale, rocking backwards, straightening up that front leg, walking back with your blocks, and lifting the front toes if that feels good. So now beginning to open up the back of the right leg. So let's come through that once more. Inhale, walking the blocks forward, bending into the front knee, opening up through your chest. And then exhale, blocks come backwards, opening up the back of the right leg. Your toes lift. Inhale, walking forward once more. Moving the blocks just to the front of the mat so that you can bring the left hand down underneath the left shoulder, opening up the right arm to the sky in a twist. Exhaling, hands by the feet. Tucking the toes under, lifting up the back knee. And an option to come into the twist again with the back knee lifted. You can bring the knee down if you prefer. Just warming up the legs a little bit, seeing how that twist feels different with that back left lifted, pressing through the back heel. And right hand comes back down again. Stepping back to downward facing dog if you can. So don't worry if that takes a couple of steps to get there. Finding your way back when you're ready. Inhaling up onto the toes. And this time we'll take the left foot forward in between the hands. So lifting up the left foot, bringing it forward, using a hand to help it get there if that feels good, lowering the back knee, and then untucking the toes on this side. Bringing your blocks underneath the hands again, and seeing if you can sink down that right hip. Maybe it feels a little different on this side. Having a little feel into what's going on in your body. And then taking that rock back, so opening up the back of the left leg as you exhale, lifting up your toes. Inhale, coming forward, opening up the front of the hip again, the front of the leg. And exhaling to come back. So seeing where feels maybe the tightest, maybe it's the front of the hip, maybe it's the back of the leg. Coming forward once more and moving your blocks just kind of off to the front, bringing the right hand down underneath the right shoulder and starting off by taking that twist with the knee down, reaching up with the left hand, seeing if you can really open from the waist here. Exhaling, hand back down, taking a moment to kind of sink into that hip again. And then tucking the toe under, lifting the back knee only if you want to, pressing through the back heel, and then taking the twist again. So seeing how it feels with that back knee lifted, so a little bit of a stronger version of the pose. And then when you're ready, hand back down by the foot, and seeing if you can step that foot all the way back into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, rising up onto the toes to walk or step forward to meet the hands. So you can either take that slow walk forwards, or if you want to, you can take a big step. Either way, meeting together in halfway lift, bringing hands to shins or thighs, gaze comes down. And exhale into forward fold, taking a ragdoll here, so maybe bringing the feet a little wider. And then one hand inside each elbow, totally softening up the whole of the upper body. Letting the body have a couple of breaths, rest in this position. You can totally bend the legs here if that feels better. And then releasing the hands, bringing the feet back to hips width apart, and taking that nice slow roll up to stand. Option to have the arms come out to the side, up overhead, and then palms together. Taking a little shake out with the legs, if that feels good. From here, taking a step back with your left leg, we're going to come straight into a high lunge. So don't worry if you have a little bit of a wobble here, but before you step back, finding somewhere to focus on, bringing the weight into the right foot, and then seeing if you can then step the left leg back into a high lunge. Once you get there, if it feels comfortable, you can lift the arms up to the ceiling. Otherwise, feel free to stay with hands at heart center or even to the waist. Either one's okay. And then doing a little bit of opening through the legs. So straightening up the front leg, reaching tall, and then lowering down. We'll just come through that a couple of times, feeling into the legs. And seeing if you can keep your balance here, staying focused on whatever spot it was that you found. Lowering down. And then hands by the feet. This time stepping back into plank. Taking a breath here, if that feels good. And then lowering the knees down, untucking the toes. And option to come through your cobra, so bending the elbows to the back of the mat, lowering down all the way to the ground. Inhaling, upward dog, and inhaling cobra, using your hands to press away, peeling up from the breastbone, and then pressing back onto your hands and knees, tucking the toes underneath, and taking downward facing dog. Once you get there, on your next inhale, rising up onto the toes, and then taking that walk or step forward to meet your hands at the top of the mat. coming into halfway lift, hands to shins or thighs. Exhaling, releasing forward fold. Inhaling, rolling up to stand when you're ready. Arms come out to the side, up overhead if you wish. And hands to prayer. So we'll give that high lunge a go on the other side. Finding a little spot to focus on. Grounding down through the left foot. So noticing the support on the left foot. Base of big toe, base of little toe and heel. Particularly noticing the heel when we're in a high lunge. And then if you can, stepping the right foot back into high lunge. So again, hands can stay in prayer. They can reach up overhead, or they can be down by the waist. And if you're finding it difficult to balance here, take the feet a little wider. It might be that your feet have ended up a bit close together. So check they're still hips width. And then as you inhale, straightening the front leg, and exhale, lowering down. Inhale to straighten. Exhale to lower. One more time. Inhale to straighten. And exhale to lower. Holding in this lowered position for one more breath. And then hands by the feet. Stepping back into plank. And you can come down onto the knees when you're ready. Otherwise, holding on for one more breath in plank. Lowering the knees down. If you don't want to take your vinyasa here, you can rock back to child's pose. Otherwise, untucking the toes, coming all the way down. Inhaling into your cobra. And exhaling, downward facing dog when you're ready. On your next inhale, rising up onto the tiptoes, stepping or walking, coming to meet at the front of the mat. In halfway lift, hands to shins or thighs. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale, slowly rising up through the spine. Hands come out to the side. They can reach up overhead if you want. And hands to prayer. So we'll try a little balance and a little transition with high lunge. And like I said at the beginning, no worries if this doesn't feel good. You just go with what feels best for you. So starting off by grounding down into the right foot. I'm just going to move my mat a little bit further back because it's kind of snuck up and I'm in danger of hitting the wall. So finding those 3 points of support, the base of the big toe, the base of the little toe and the heel. Finding your place to focus on like we did with high lunge. And bringing the hands to the waist. And then seeing if you can hover those left toes from the ground. Maybe you can bring them up a little higher. And then from here, we're going to see about stepping back into high lunge from here. So you may do that in one step, or it might be a couple of steps. So you're going to shoot your hands back to help you with balance. So see how you got on there. Don't worry if you fell over. Don't worry if you take a couple of steps to get there. That's absolutely okay. Inhale, reaching up with the hands when you get into your high lunge. And then exhale, hands by the feet, and stepping straight back into downward facing dog this time. On your next inhale, rising up onto the toes, either walking or stepping, coming to meet in halfway lift at the top of your mat. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling to rise up, rolling up through the spine nice and slow. Arms can come out to the side, reaching up overhead. And hands to prayer. We'll give that a go on the other side. So this time grounding down through the left foot. You've probably got one foot that's more stable, so don't worry if one felt super wobbly. Maybe this one will feel a bit different. Focusing on your spot, getting a feel for those 3 points of support in the left foot, and then bringing the hands to the waist. And then seeing if you can bring the weight into the left foot, letting the toes rise from the ground on the right side. Maybe the leg comes up a little higher. And then we'll try that shooting back into the high lunge. So you're going to bring the hands down by the waist as you do that, and stepping back. So again, don't worry if you had a little fall. Giving it a go is what counts. Inhale, reaching up toward the hands. Exhale, bringing the hands down by the feet, this time pressing off the back foot, coming into your forward fold, taking the feet wide and taking that ragdoll with the arms. So you can take a little sway side to side here if you want. And remembering if you were having a little wobble there, that every time that we wobble, we're building strength. So it might be a little easier next time. And then allowing the hands to release, bringing the left hand to the left leg, or if it comfortably reaches the ground, you can leave it on the ground. And we'll come into that twist that we did in the last gentle flow class. So opening up with the right hand, maybe you take a bend into that left knee to allow the hand to open up a bit more. So up to you, neither bent or straight, whatever feels best. Exhaling, bringing the right hand down to the right leg. And then same options on this side. So right hand can be to the ground, it can be to the leg. And you can take a bend in that right leg if you want. Inhaling, left arm reaches up, taking a twist. So what's more important here is that the chest is open and the arms are open than what's going on with the leg and this bottom hand. So don't worry if that leg's bent, that's okay. If you happen to have the reach with the hand on the floor, then, that's wonderful, but, no pressure. It doesn't change what's going on in the top of the body, so don't worry about that. And then exhale back down, coming back into your ragdoll, taking another breath here. And then taking your wide leg halfway lift, so bringing hands to the legs. And then hands in front of the body, bending the knees, coming up onto the toes. And a little rock side to side. And then hands behind the body, lowering down all the way onto your back. So you can bring a block with you if you want. And we're going to come into bridge pose from here. So a little different to our normal bridge pose, but setting up as usual. So fingertips so that you can just about reach the ankles, bringing the feet to hips width apart, seeing if the feet can be parallel. So you might want to have a little check that the feet are parallel with the mat and that they're about hips width. And then normally we keep the hands on the floor for bridge pose here, but this time we're going to bring them up and overhead. So this is kind of getting a little bit of openness through the chest as well. If you'd rather take your restorative bridge with the block under the hips, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're going to just take some bridge pulses, so we won't be holding it for the whole time. So inhale, pressing through the feet and the shoulders, and then seeing if you can lift the hips up. So it doesn't have to be super far. And then we'll kind of exhale and lower. So we're not bringing the hips all the way to the ground. They're not quite touching all the way down. They're kind of just hovering a little bit. Inhale, pressing the hips up. And exhale to lower down. So we'll come through another couple of these. Inhale, hips rise up. Exhaling to lower. And really getting a sense of the knees kind of holding something between them, something that's precious that you don't want to squash, but they're having to hold on to it. Exhaling, this time lowering all the way down. Bringing the hands down by the side this time. And we'll come through the little bridge, sort of like lifts and lowers again. Option to take with one leg this time, only if you want. Otherwise, you can stay arms overhead and doing the lifting and lowering that we just did. So if you'd like to try with one leg, then we'll start off pressing down into the right foot. We'll have both sort of feet on the ground to start with as we lift the hips. Once the hips are lifted, then you can see about hovering that left foot from the ground. And you can either kind of keep it just bent and hovered and do a little lift and lower with the hips. Or if you want, you can bring the foot right up to the sky and then lower the hips as you exhale. Inhale to rise. So what's moving here is just the hips. So this isn't coming from the leg. It's just the hips, so the same movement as before, and then lower. And we'll come all the way down, bringing the left foot down. So option to try that on the other side. Again, if this is not feeling good, then feel free to stay with your arms over the head and lifting and lowering that way. Otherwise, we're lifting up, both feet on the ground. Weight comes into the left foot this time, right leg lifts. So either just lifting or the foot can come all the way up. And then we're lowering the hips down as you exhale. Inhale to lift up. Lowering the hips down. Inhale to lift up. So as with all these things, it might be that one side is easier than the other. And if that's the case, then don't worry about it. This time lowering all the way down, right foot comes down. And we'll go straight into taking a few windscreen wipe with the legs, release the lower back. So legs come over to one side and then the other. And then lifting the feet from the floor, drawing the knees into the chest, wrapping the arms around the shins, holding onto the fingers. Maybe you lift the forehead from the ground, curling up in a little ball. And then exhaling to release, coming into Shavasana. So opening up the body, maybe use your blocks and cushions to support yourself. So you can bring a cushion under the head, under the knees. You can have the feet on the floor and the knees knocking together. Or any other position that might feel good. Maybe you feel more comfortable lying down on your side. So if that's the case, then just get yourself comfy on your side instead. You've got your cushions there, you can bring them in between the knees and one underneath the head. And then allowing your eyes to close once you get there. Noticing how your body's feeling now after that class. How did that go for you? Were you able to listen into your body to what it needed to take the variation that it wanted you to take? Taking a little moment to maybe be thankful for your body, for what it's been able to do today, whether you were wobbling or whether there were bits that you wanted to miss out. Being grateful for all of the ways that it's been able to move, all of the things it was able to do. Allowing your body now to become heavy against the mat. It's done all of the work it needs to do. This is the time for the body to rest, the end of practice, the sort of recuperation stage of physical practice. With each exhale, letting your body become a little bit heavier, letting go of places that are holding on. Releasing your body down into the ground for the next few minutes. Please do stay here for at least a couple more minutes today, taking your full Shavasana, your full resting time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.